Hello YouTube, I'm Pedro from the Wicked Cat team. On the last video we started working with a script to control our truck. Today we are going to finish that script and test it. If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, and if you want more Unity 5 tutorials, remember subscribe to our channel. So on the last video we created this small script right here and we have been working on it. So going back to Visual Studio, we created a class that we are going to use as a data structure to our wheel pairs. In this case the class is this one, the Axle Load Master Cargo Info. The next step now is to create a script that will receive the input from the player and apply it to our wheel pairs, right? So before anything else we actually need to define some fields for our script. So let's start by doing that. So the first thing we need is a list of all the wheel pairs that we have. So I'm going to use a public list. Now we set list, and now we are actually going to set the Loadmaster Cargo Info, the type exactly, and let's call it Axle Info. Why not? So yes, so this is a list of all wheel pairs, and we are actually giving an error because I think that we actually need to import something. We are actually having an error. Let me check if I can understand. Public list. See, everything seems to be working fine. Let me just real quick take a look. Here. Okay, let me just check a moment here. Find all references. No. Yeah, we are actually probably missing some library. Let me just check here on my second screen if I can actually see it. So we are actually working with Loadmaster. And I should be able to see it right here. So yes, we are actually missing a library. So what I'm actually going to do is using system.collections.generic. We actually need this one. Yeah, as you guys can see, the error is now missing. So you were missing this reference in the top of our script. So okay, we already have a list to store the wheel pairs. Next we are actually need to define the maximum torque of the motor. So we're actually going to public, in this case is a float, and max motor torque, and this is maximum torque the motor can apply to the wheels. Okay. Next we actually need to define a steering angle for the wheels, for the ones that actually have steering, right? So you need to define an angle of the maximum steering angle. So just like we did to the motor, we're actually going to define public float, in this case max steering angle, and we are actually going to say this is the maximum steer angle of the wheels, right? So this here you'll define the maximum angle that you can actually get with the wheels. So the following step is to receive the input from the player and apply that input to our wheel colliders and rigid body. Now to do that, we are actually going to use the fixed update method. So as you guys can see, we have the update here, but I'm actually talking about another one, the fixed update. So you should use the fixed update instead of the update when you are actually dealing with rigid bodies. For example, if you want to apply a force, you should do that on the fixed update instead of using the update method. So let's first get the fixed update here. We are actually going to set public void, in this case fixed update. And now I'm actually going to open it. So first things first, we actually need to receive the input from the player, right, in order to get the values from the motor and the steering. So what we're actually going to do is float motor equals, in this case, max motor torque, right? And we are going to multiply this by the input that we receive from, from get axis, right? And we want to use the vertical axis, which means that you either use the W and the S keys, or we actually use the up and down keys of the keyboard, alright? Or you can even use the analog. So this is why I prefer to actually use the axis instead of the keyboards, because it's better, because if you want to use a joypad it will work just fine. So in this case we want to use the vertical axis to set the speed of the vehicle and make it move forward. So vertical, alright, sorry, not here. And now what you actually want to do is to actually set the steering. Now the steering will tell you how the vehicle is going to turn. So instead of using the vertical axis, we are actually use the horizontal axis. So it's very simple as well. So we're going to actually do float steering equals, now we set the max steering value, not this one, max steering value. We are going to multiply this by the input dot get axis, and this time we are actually going to use the horizontal axis. Okay, so right now we are actually getting the input from the player. So the next step now is that for each wheel in the vehicle we want to check if the steering and the motor, and if we have the motor property on that wheel pair, we want to apply that force to the motor of the motor, or if you actually have the steering enabled, we want to apply the steering to the wheels, right? So what you're actually going to do now is for each, in this case axle load master cargo info, axle info in sorry about the time, forgot to set an S right here, right? So in axle infos, so this is our list. So to each wheel pair in our list we are actually going to do the following. So first we are going to check the steering. So check the steering, and what I'm actually going to do is if axle info dot steering equals to true, I'm going to set that axle info dot left wheel dot steering angle is going to be the steering value that we are actually going to receive from the player, and I'm going to do the same for the right wheel. So axle info dot right wheel dot steering angle equal to steering. Okay, so if we have steering enabled, we are actually going to apply the steering angle to our wheel, right? So this is how you deal with steering. Now let's actually set the motor. So now we want to check the motor, and just like we did before, if this case axle info dot motor is set to true, we are actually going to open brackets, and we are actually going to do axle info left wheel dot motor torque equals to motor. So we are actually going to apply a force to the collider, to the rigid body of the collider. Axle info right wheel motor torque. So you are actually applying now the force to the wheel colliders, right? So right now we already have applying the angle and the force to the wheels, right? So if we actually tested our script right now, we will see that the truck will move, okay, and wheel colliders will rotate just like wheels, like they should. However, we will notice that the meshes of the wheel would not be moving. This happens because we did not take care of that yet. So right now we need to actually create a method to make the meshes move with the wheel colliders, right? So for that I'm going to create a new method. I'm going to create it right here, and I'm going to call it public, in this case void, let's call it apply local position to visuals, and we are actually going to receive as entry parameters the axle load mass cargo info. So we are actually going to receive wheel pair, and we are actually going to wheel pair here. So let me just set this here and open brackets, not this here. So what we're actually going to do this here is we are actually going to go to the wheel pair, and for the left wheel mesh, what I'm actually going to do is to change the transform, and I'm going to say that you are going to rotate, and it's going to rotate to the front. So in this case I'm going to pact vector 3 forward no, sorry. The angle here may change according to your model. For our model is actually right, okay. And now I'm going to say how fast is going to rotate. So I'm going to use time dot delta time. I'm going to multiply this by the wheel pair dot left wheel. where it is, left wheel right here, and I'm going to get the RPM, right? So I'm going to get the right RPM from the colliders, and I'm going to multiply it by 10, right? So and now I'm actually going to say where is going to apply. So it's going to apply it to space dot self. Okay, so we have it applied to the left wheel. Let's do the same for the right wheel of the pair. So wheel pair, right wheel mesh. We are going to change the transform. We are going to rotate it. Again, we want to rotate it around the direction of the vector right, vector 3 dot right, and we want time dot delta time, and multiply it by the wheel pair dot, this time I want to right wheel dot RPM, multiply it by 10, and it's going to apply it to itself. So space dot self. Okay, so now we have a method that is actually going to make the meshes of the wheels rotate. Now we actually need to call this, and we are actually going to call this at the end of our for each cycle. So what I'm actually going to do is to call apply local position to visuals right here, and I'm going to set axle info, which is our wheel pair, to this method. Okay, so the script is ready, so let's save it and let's apply it to our model. Okay, so let's go back to Unity. So I'm going to select our Loadmaster cargo. I'm going to drag this here, and now we have our script. We need to actually set the size. It's changing to the scene. We are actually need to change the size of the wheels. So if you guys remember, we have this should not be here. Let me just set it. I want this here. Okay, we need to actually change the size of our list. So how many wheel pairs we actually have? We have 2 in the front. Actually we have 1 in the front, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the back. So we actually have 5, right? So the next step here is to actually set the wheels. So for the front, I'm actually going to front here. Front wheel holder, I'm actually going to set the front wheel 1 here. So the front wheel mesh should be here, which is left wheel. And now I'm actually going to apply the front wheel 2 to here, which is the right wheel, right? So next I'm actually going to, let me select it, I'm going to apply the colliders. So right collider here, left collider here, and since we are actually talking about the front wheels, I'm going to set this to steering on. Okay, so we now have our first wheel pair ready. I'm actually going to set the second pair. We actually should change to the none here so you actually can see. So for our second pair, since you are actually talking about the back wheels, you're actually going to apply motor to all of these pairs, right? So middle, we are actually going to apply middle wheel 1, which is this one. which is left wheel mesh, and wheel 2, no, it's 3, right. So I'm going to apply 3 right here, and let me see, middle right, middle left one, exactly this one here. Middle left one we are going to apply it to here, and middle right one we are going to apply it here. And this time we actually want motor here. Again, here we actually need to define the next wheel pair. We are still in the middle, so we are actually going to define this time here, this one, so to the left and to the right. So we want middle wheel left 2, which is this one, and you want middle wheel right 2. Here we set the motor enable as well. Moving on to the back wheels, right? So close this one, back wheel holder. We actually need the one is the one on the inside, so I'm actually going to set this as here. Let me just close this one, and probably this one, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to apply this here, and now I'm going to say rear left one, which is this one exactly, rear wheel left one to here, rear wheel right one, which is here. It's going to move here or not, what I'm actually doing, right? No, we actually did not something. Oh, okay, I see, so I actually changed this by mistake. We actually want the 3 right here, exactly. If the 3 is this one, yeah, exactly. So we want motor enabled as well, and now we actually want to set the last wheel pair, which we are going to use. Let me just cancel, in this case wheel 2 and wheel 4. So for the left, for the right, and now rear wheel left 2 for here, rear wheel right 2 here when I'm going to set motor on. Okay, so now we actually have our pairs ready. What I'm actually going to do is to set the motor torque to 400 and set max steering wheel to 25. Okay, I'm going to save it. Let me just close all of this. So now you're actually ready to test it. Okay, so I'm actually going to create now, it's a plane. So game object, 3D object, and I'm actually going to create a plane right here, and we need to make this bigger. Let's say 100 per, not Y, we actually want this on the Z axis by 100, and we need to make this a little bit down here. Okay, this should be working. Now let me just check if everything is alright. Oh, okay, we actually forgot to set the mass of our truck. In this case you want to set the mass like this and use gravity in this case, yes, and let's test this out. Okay, so the truck will fall to the plane and will stop in the plane. Let's just see if this happens. Okay, so the truck falls in the plane, and now if I actually use my arrows, you guys can see that I can actually drive the truck, and the wheels are rotating just like we expected them to do, and the truck seems to be working just fine. Now I'm actually seeing a small problem here. Which is, it seems that our truck no, it seems to be working fine. From the angle, I guess this is happening because we don't have any texture applied to the. Let me just close this. Let's apply a texture here, material. We have some rubber, let's apply it to here. Actually, plastic rough, no, this mud seems to be working just fine. Yes, so actually, this is probably because of the size of the plane. Let me get it a little bit smaller. Yes, because when I actually look from this angle, it seems that our wheels are actually, yes, right now are above the plane. What I actually want to see is that if our, let me just change this, it seems that our truck is in the air. That means that you may want to adjust the wheel colliders, but no, yes, the truck is in the right position. It seems that it was in the air because the plane had no texture. So if I actually go back here, and if I actually use the arrows or the WASD keys, or even the joypad for that matter, we actually can drive the truck around. So it seems to be working just fine, as you guys can see. Now I'm actually going to reverse the movement of the truck. See, yeah, it's slowing down, and now it should be starting to, yes, to reverse. So as you guys can see, it's working perfectly fine. So this is how you actually create a very simple script to control a vehicle with wheels. So, however, as you guys can see, the camera is not following the truck like it should in a game, so we're actually going to take care of that in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson. Until next video, have a nice day.